To approve the minutes from our previous meeting.
Madam Chairman, I've reviewed the minutes and find them to be in order, and without objection, I move for their approval.
Very good, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Very good, thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Awesome. Health Department. Welcome.
Good evening. Tonight I will be presenting the June 2021 Health Department Report of Community Health Outreach and providing a COVID-19 update, since we have a lot of updates that have just transpired. So please take a look at the June 2021 Report of Community Health Outreach. Our three columns labeled Protect, Promote, and Improve are starting to progress as we continue to provide services both in person but then also virtually. Additionally, our community outreach team has started back attending events, in which you can see they're listed as our Juneteenth health activities at Bradley Academy, and also a stress management course, which I think we're all in need of right now, at First Baptist Church. Furthermore, our staff continues to work hard to ensure that we test, vaccinate, and provide education and guidance to help mitigate the spread of COVID-19 here in our community. I do have Dr. Lori McDonald here with me today. She's going to provide a little bit more about the Delta variant, as I'm sure you all have heard in the news. It's something that is coming amongst us, and we want to make sure that we are educating, but then also being made more aware of the Delta variant. But I think we all can agree that a lot has transpired over the course of 501 days. 501 days as of Friday, March 13th of 2020, when we received our first positive case here in our county. And I'm proud to say that our staff has definitely been fulfilling the mission throughout this pandemic of the Tennessee Department of Health to promote, protect, and improve the health and prosperity of people in our great state of Tennessee. So just to give you a couple of stats that we were able to pull from March 2020 to June the 30th, 2021, our staff at the Rutherford County Health Department tested roughly 52,800 with AEL, our state lab, Path Group, and then also with Everly Well self-test kits. Additionally, since December 2020 through June 30th, 2021, we have vaccinated approximately 50,553 just with the Rutherford County Health Department. Our largest number was 851 that we were able to vaccinate in 7 hours, and this was done on March the 26th. Roughly, we were running about 400 to 600 per day while we were out at State Farm. Furthermore, as of Monday, June the 28th, we have successfully moved back to our COVID-19 testing and vaccinations to the Rutherford County Health Department in our back parking lot, located at 100 West Burton Street here in Murfreesboro. COVID-19 testing does take place in the rear parking lot of our health department. We also have drive-up testing, which is available by appointments only on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8:30 to 10:30. We do ask that people continue to schedule, as we know that our testing numbers are starting to increase. And to schedule an appointment, they can call 615-898-7880. Additionally, our self-test kits are available Monday through Friday for anyone who wants to have a self-test kit to take home and do it in the comfort of their own home, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4. We were testing roughly 5 to 10 per day. However, as of today, that number has jumped up, and we're doing about 30. So we do see that as the fall is coming back into play, that our numbers are starting to increase, in which I'm going to share with you all some of those numbers, unfortunately, that are increasing here in our county. So along with testing, we also continue to work all investigation that goes along with positive cases 7 days a week. And we will continue to do this throughout the fall semester, working alongside with both of our school systems. Additionally, over the last 7 days, our average positivity percentage was about 13%, which of course has increased 12% since last month. So last month when I shared with you all was 1%, and now we're at 13%. With our case count being anywhere from about 18.5 per day. So with our ongoing efforts to maximize outreach, but then also trying to make sure that everyone who wants the vaccine can receive a vaccine, we will continue to work with members in our communities, working alongside with our churches, community groups, community events, as we know we have a lot of those coming up. Also facilities and businesses to bring the COVID-19 vaccinations to off-site locations and not just holding them hostage at our health department. We do ask that anyone who is wanting to host these events that they please contact us. They can contact us on our website, and there's a survey to fill out, or they can call us, and we will get them in touch with the right individuals, because we truly believe that working together, we can provide the COVID-19 vaccine, once again, to those who need it the most. Additionally, our COVID-19 vaccination efforts, so they do continue to take place in the rear conference room at our health department Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4. And currently we're vaccinating roughly about 20 people per day. So we are still seeing people come in, and that's just at our site. So there's other sites, there's about 50 other sites located within a 20-mile or 50-mile radius of here. And so there are other sites that are still continuing to vaccinate. So our numbers of vaccines reported in our county is 244,515. So once again, that's a large number, 244,515. And those are the total number of vaccinations reported as of yesterday to our Tennessee Department of Health through our tennis system that we're utilizing. So data as of last Thursday, unfortunately, does show that our 7-day transmission rate is back above the state's acceptable rate, now averaging anywhere, like I said, from 18 to 50 new cases per day, after 2.5 months of staying below that threshold. So our active local cases are up roughly 370% from 2 weeks ago. And the 7-day average of positivity is about 16%, and the daily positivity rate is 18%. So, of course, the CDC does estimate that all cases in our region of the county is about 80% is the Delta variant, in which Dr. Mack is going to share a little bit more about. And the vaccine does seem to almost be completely effective for preventing this serious illness or death, but it's less effective for getting the virus and actually carrying it. So, of course, we are encouraging all eligible residents to receive the vaccination. Rutherford County has about 44% that's been vaccinated versus 66% for the United States. And as we talk about immunity, which I know Dr. Mack's going to share a little bit about, most estimates place that immunity about 60 to 70% of the population in order for us to gain immunity of either them receiving the vaccinations and or past exposure to the virus. So we will continue at the Rutherford County Health Department to monitoring all reopening across the state and maintaining vigilance and the critical COVID-19 indicators as we look at our state and also county levels to identify problems. And so there are a couple of metrics that were developed in line with the White House proposed state gating criteria that will help us do this. And so those 4 areas that we will continue to look at is trends in COVID-19 cases, which I've shared with you all today, trends in the symptoms, trends in our COVID-19 testing capabilities, but then also trends in the healthcare system capacity. I do want to take this time before we get to Dr. Mack and her talking about the Delta variant to share just a few bright spots with you all that I'm very proud of our staff. We have had 3 audits over the course of the pandemic, and most of them being within the last month, and I'm proud to say, and it's probably the first time that I know that since I've been with the health department in 12 years, that we passed it with 100%. 100% with our audits, and I'm very proud of all the work that our staff does at the health department. Additionally, working alongside with our county IT team, we have new phones that are being put in place at our health department, as I came to you all, I believe, about 6 months ago, asking for additional funds to be moved so we could get our phone line systems up. We have been able to work alongside with Cody and the IT team, and those phones are actually, I think, installed today, and so they're working through the process, and so we're very excited to be able to have the phone system in to be able to serve our community better. Also, we have implementing a texting system to help with our no-show rate. So we were roughly about 40% of no-show rates, and since using that texting system over the past couple of weeks, we have gained to 80% show rate. So we have doubled our show rate at the health department, and so we're very excited to be able to provide that service to our residents. Additionally, we are increasing access at our Smyrna Health Department, moving some of our staff that were here in Murfreesboro down there to help with some of the procedures and things that need to be done. We have the partnership that is being finalized with Journey Home. And then also one major thing that I would like to share with you all is our updates to our vital records. So as we know, school time is around the corner, and the Rutherford County Health Department has made it much easier to get transferred and updated immunization records. So when submitting a request, we ask that people fill out the information online and provide a clear copy of the immunization and/or physical records that they may already have, and so we can update that for them in a timely response, and then we are able to get that to them faster than than them actually coming into the health department. And so that's the service that we want to provide, and we're thankful and grateful to, once again, our county IT team for helping us with this as we're able to better serve our residents. Additionally, if you have time in your busy schedules, 4 photographers from Nashville, Tennessee did prepare a pandemic-era exhibit, and this exhibit is called the Nashville, A Pandemic Observed, where we have several of our health department staff, Dr. Mack including one of them, which is an art exhibit that is at the Scarlett Bennett Center in Nashville. So the work is also slated to be added to the Vanderbilt University's permanent fine art collection. And so during the pandemic, they came out and they took photos, and one of the major photos that I think that they have is the one in front of our health department with 4 of our nurses and Dr. Mack with all their PPE on. And so this is something that will go down in history, and that is actually going to be at the Scarlett Bennett Center in Nashville. It's free and open to the public, and the exhibit dates are July 1st through September the 30th. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Mack for her to give you all an update on the Delta variant.
Thank you. I've always wanted to get into Vanderbilt. I guess I did with the picture. The Delta variant, as you guys probably hear, is very much more communicable than the other variants. It's about 80% of what we're seeing now. The biggest difference, I think, is that the incubation period's much shorter, like 3 days. You get it, 3 days later you're sick, as opposed to prior where it could go much longer than that. It's highly communicable, and it seems to be getting younger folks, which is always most of our concern. The good news is certainly the messenger RNA vaccinations that we've all received, and most of you guys probably have received as well. It's you're totally protected with that. The other vaccines I can't speak to as well. Some of that literature is still out there, and so on. But I think the kind of bottom line is vaccination works. The vaccines that we offer work, and every day I talk to my patients every day and ask them if they've had the vaccine, and unfortunately a large majority of them say no, they don't believe in it. So I do my spiel because the people I see have bad lung disease and diabetes, and they say they're too worried about their comorbidity to get the vaccine, and I say, but that's why you should get it. So if we could get that message out there, I think it would be really good. Other than that, it's the main thing that we need to do is vaccinate. That's the main thing we need to do to get us where we need to go, and we need to get a higher rate, higher percentage to get that safety, as everyone knows. It's going to be tough, but you have to just keep talking to people and letting them understand that the hospital admissions we're seeing now for COVID, and we're seeing them again, they're almost all unvaccinated. I have several acquaintances and good friends who have been fully vaccinated and have acquired a second bout of infection. It's very mild, and you stay at home for a few days and then you're well again. So that's a little bit concerning, but it happens, and LaShannon and I were just talking about it. The thing that we do very well in our health departments is we're fastidious about how we store the vaccine. We watch for the temperatures constantly. We don't ever give anybody a vaccine if it's 1 minute past its expiration date time. You know, they don't last forever. There's 5 to 6 vaccines in every little vial, and if we'll give one person a vaccination and toss the other 5 if we have to do it. So we're very good about that. I can't speak for the rest of the world, how they do vaccines. And people say, well, I thought this was such a powerful vaccine, the messenger RNA vaccines, and they are in the ideal situation, but the situation a lot of people vaccinated in isn't ideal. They don't keep it at the right temperature, perhaps. I mean, there's all sorts of other things that can happen. So the bottom line is it's the best defense we have, and we encourage people, and we've got the ability to do it almost any time. I've spent some time back in the kitchen area in the conference room and in the back parking lot with the people that have been vaccinating with us since, gosh, it's been a year. Hard to believe. And they're doing a great job. They're very professional. They do everything by standard. If there's any concern, they come get you. I mean, today, one of the nurses came and got me and said, sorry to bother you. I know you're seeing patients, but this person's one day early for this vaccine. I said, well, that's unfortunate for him or her, but he has to come back tomorrow or the next day. We follow all the standards carefully, and that's the only way we can proceed forward. Other than that, I think we'll get a handle on this. We just have to keep plugging along.
Good, thank you. Any questions, Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So you have vaccinated 244,000, is that correct?
Yes, as a collective unit here in our county, so us with other agencies as well.
So if our county is 360,000 approximately right now, and we have vaccinated 244,000, do we know how many children that are in our county that's not going to be vaccinated yet, or you know, I don't know where that exactly stands, and how many of that 244,000 are not residents of Rutherford County? So I guess the percentages for me aren't adding up when you take in, you know, especially children under 12 and non-residents. So do you have those records, or it may not be that important, but I was curious as to where we stood with that.
Yes, so the Tennessee Department of Health they are looking into those numbers, and a lot of this information is publicly available information that is available on tn.gov, health.tn.gov. And so as we look at those numbers, so that raw number that I gave you of 224,000, that is the amount of vaccines that have been administered, whether it's Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, or Pfizer, because of course we had all three at one given time that we were being able to administer. But that percentage is based off of a couple of different caveats in which I can get you that information of what that is, so that you have it. But I can say that when we were at State Farm especially, we saw license plates, from everywhere, even, outside of the state of Tennessee, because people were coming in and visiting. So a lot of that, the data that we do have is just for our tennis system, and so that we're keeping up with. But we were able to vaccinate quite a few because they saw that how efficient we were in being able to get those vaccines out. And like I said, in that one day of 7 hours, we were able to do almost a vaccine, seemed like almost every minute. So
I know that early on, when the lines were so long, that some of our citizens went to other county facilities too, facilities outside our county, because the population's not as great, of course. So I was just curious as to what the actual percentage of vaccinated to unvaccinated adults is out there.
And then I actually have a follow-up question to that. So when we give that number of vaccines, are we calling that if you've had 2 shots, that's a vaccine, or if you've had 1 shot, or if you've had 1 shot and you were only supposed to have 1 shot of the Johnson & Johnson? How are we counting those?
So that is as a first dose, just 1 shot. So whether it's Johnson & Johnson, whether it's Pfizer or Moderna, so that number is based off of one shot itself.
Okay.
Because everyone has not finished, the percentage is. Everyone has not finished their second dose. And I do have the number for the second dose, if you want to have that number, which of course is a little bit lower than the actual number that I will present to you all today.
And that'll be the number that you use as you try to calculate fully vaccinated?
Vaccinated individuals
Okay.
in our county, yes.
Okay. Are there any other questions for them?
So once again, just to reiterate, that 244,515, those are the number of vaccines that we're giving. So whether it was 1 dose and or if it was 2 doses, so if I fully vaccinated and Dr. Mack was fully vaccinated, that's 4 doses combined that was given as far as vaccines.
Keep us posted as you're able to, and I know that you're going to refine that data as you go along, so as you do that, yeah, please continue to share that. But thank you again for everything that you all are doing, and please don't hesitate to ask for help if you need it. So before you go, let's cast a vote.
And I think we're most interested in the fully vaccinated. I got the Johnson & Johnson, so I just wanted the one shot. So, but I think that's probably what we're most interested in is, how many of our citizens are actually vaccinated.
Fully vaccinated? Yes, sir.
Fully vaccinated.
Okay, I will provide that number for you next time.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, you're welcome.
Commissioner Phillips.
Thank you. Just to follow up on the booster, you're hearing a lot more and more about that. Do you have any information on that yet, or is that
We're very
coming?
close to having some guidance on that. Dr. Fauci is, from what I gathered in yesterday's kind of briefing, is that it's close to when there's going to be an announcement. It looks positive, is what I gather, but that's just what I'm gathering from the discussion. We do know that after 6 to 8 months in some people, the vaccine, even completely vaccinated people, it starts to wane a bit. But vaccinations and immunization and immunology is so strange. It doesn't always mean that if you are presented with a new onset of the virus at you, that your memory cells and so on won't activate and come back. I mean, we always check people's titers for other things like Hep B, for example, and that's a 3-shot thing. And in other clinics that I've done where people were immune compromised, we'd be checking, and they still weren't immune after 8 shots if they had HIV, for example. And finally, the HIV gurus in Washington said, you guys got to stop at 6 and presume that if they're confronted with the disease, their immune system will wake up. So it's a bit complex, but that's the way it is.
I'd say you're really going to have a challenge with a booster. If you're challenged with getting a second shot from our citizens, trying to get a booster will be all the more of a challenge, I believe.
All right, so is there a motion to accept the report? Thank you. Good, thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Very good. Thank you, ladies. We appreciate you. Thank you. All right, next up, we've got the community care report. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Community care is doing well. We have, as of 6/25, we had 98 beds out of 105 that were available, that are full. We're about 2 weeks away from completing the construction on the old wing, so that's going to open up several more beds for us, and we're really looking forward to that opportunity for the new wing to be open. Still keeping everything in check, still testing patients, knock on wood, no outbreaks. Things are going well. Our hats off to Lieutenant Peralta and the workhouse crew. They've been going out. Mr. Bodery and I believe our circuit court clerk, Melissa Harrell, put up about $600 worth of seed, and Mr. Spurlock and others went out and planted some of those seeds for the garden. And so we've had the workhouse crew out there getting the weeds. The unfortunate part was that the Riverdale FFA planted all the seeds, but they forgot that weeds grew because they left them for the summer. And so the weeds were getting taller than the tomato plants. So we got the workhouse guys to go out there, and they really cleaned it up. And so we should have if it continues to get some good water, we'll have a bountiful harvest on those tomatoes and cucumbers and whatever else they planted out there. And so we're going to let that go back into the kitchen at the nursing facility. And then whatever's left over, if we have too much, then we'll take it over to the workhouse and share with those guys over there as well. So it's been kind of exciting that they get to eat what's been grown outside on the yard. The latest update was shared with the members. The preliminary design has been completed, and we'll meet again next week. The board will, to start discussion about the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week daycare facilities being built for 110 students to come out there, and we're looking at that as a retention tool as well as a recruiting tool, and not just for the employees at the nursing facility, because we're licensed up to 20. We build this new facility, we'll be licensed up to 125, but we'll open it up to all county employees who want to be able to come out and use that daycare facility at probably a more competitive rate than what you'll find daycare cost from around the county, because we already own the land. We don't have to buy the land to build the building on, and all the utilities are already there. But we'll open that up after the employees at the nursing facility see how many they want to utilize it. But we did send out a poll. We had 340 county employees who responded that said they would use it, especially in our first responders, the ones that work 3 shifts, our EMS, EMA, Sheriff's Department. They sometimes they just won't work because it costs them too much for daycare. So now if they want to come back to work, they'll have some place to take their children. If we still don't have enough to fill our full capacity of the license, then we'll open it up outside of the nursing home county, and then we'll go to some plants that run 3 shifts, like Rich Products, Pillsbury, and some of the others that are fairly close out there that could utilize that daycare facility as well. That's it, Madam Chairman.
Are there any questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Very good. All right, we do not have the special projects report this month. They were closing the books out. I think Lisa sent out the one through June, but we'll take a look at that next month. And so next up, we've got school board. Welcome.
First, like to start off with the additions to our facilities. We have 3 requests here. The one is a request for Rockville Elementary Annex bid. This will add 25 classrooms to Rockville Elementary. On Thursday, June the 17th of 2021, Purchasing, Engineering, and Construction received the bids for the site work and construction on the Annex for Rockville Elementary. All bids have been reviewed, and Engineering and Construction recommends that Robert S. Biscan base bid plus all alternatives for a total bid of $9,510,368. Engineering requests moving forward for the funding in the total amount of $12,085,368. Now, that's broken down by the following: the Biscan construction, $9,510,368. Constructed related costs or contracts, that would include every fees, utilities, easements, you name it. Quite frankly, sometimes we get into it and we don't know how many fees are going to occur. The furniture, fixtures, and equipment, $850,000. The design was $475,000. Total request for that is $12,085,368. At this moment, Rockville Elementary we did rezone some to Plainview. However, as of today, they have 859 students there, and there's a lot of growth that's taking place in Rockville, and it's just filling back up. Basically, what we did was we emptied out portables. So that's not too bad. All right. If we want to take these together, or do we want to take them separately?
I always follow whatever Doug says. If Doug says we can take them together, we take them together. If not, then we'll separate them.
Together? Okay, all right. The second one was a request for Rockville Middle classroom additions. This will add about 22 classrooms. Currently at Rockville Middle, we're at 1,221. We're about 112% over capacity there, but we are using those portables. I think there's approximately 11 classrooms that may be broken down by doubles and a few singles. I think we had added a single last year. Was that correct? All right, on Thursday, once again, July 1st, 2021, Purchasing Engineering Construction received the bids for the site work of construction for the additional 22 classrooms for Rockville Middle. All bids have been reviewed. Engineering Construction recommends Robert S. Biscan base bid of $7,087,000. They're also, engineering is requesting moving forward for the funding in the total amount of $9,132,000. This would include the base bid there, $7,887,000, and also construction-related costs of $1,250,000, furniture, fixtures, and equipment of $350,000, design of $445,000, with a total request of $9,132,000. The third request was actually to request for Central Magnet, or Smyrna Middle. I don't know where I pulled that one out of. Smyrna Middle Annex bid, renovation. Actually, we're going to actually be moving students into that facility. Right now, it currently has somewhere around 899 students. We can put in close to 1,250 students in there. So our thought process in renovating this and adding these 12 additional rooms, we look to move approximately somewhere around between 200 to 300 students out of the Blackman Middle Zone over to Smyrna Middle School. Okay. All right. I think that's the last one. Did I go over all three, or did I skip over one?
You haven't gone through the numbers on the Smyrna Middle.
Okay, the Smyrna Middle, we're adding 12 additional classrooms to it. And the numbers for Smyrna Middle are $3,810,000 for the construction, $1 million for the construction-related contracts, the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, $350,000, the design, $375,000, for a total request of $5,035,000. $5,535,000.
Good. These are all projects that we've discussed, anticipated. We knew these bids were coming in, so I'm ready to entertain a motion to consider them. Yes. Yes. Use your microphone, please, Commissioner. Thank you.
There's another one here, the request for the HVAC.
Yeah, that's going to be on a different.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chairman, I move to approve this request.
Very good. Thank you.
Second.
Good. Thank you. Since it involves money, Rachel, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And Chairman Allen?
Yes. Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you. That's okay.
All right, this next one you will see is the request for the Central Magnet Annex HVAC bid. Keep in mind, I think the commission allocated $1.5 million for the main building, and we decided to use ESSER money to complete the annex. Now, the reason why we had to go out to bid is because anytime you use federal money, you got to follow the Davis-Bacon Act, so this is what we did. So on Thursday, July the 22nd of 2021, Purchasing Engineering Construction received bids for the Central Magnet Annex HVAC bid. All bids have been reviewed, and Engineering Construction recommends Four Seasons Incorporated with a base bid of $895,000 to be funded with ESSER 2 funds.
Any questions regarding that project?
Second.
Very good. Thank you. Call the roll for us, please.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we're going to discuss the charter school application that we received from the, what was the name of the organization? Rethink Forward. And I'd like to thank Commissioner Blair for sitting in those meetings and going through it. Let me give you a little overview what a charter school is. A charter school is a public school that is a public school that is governed or operated by a nonprofit board. Okay, it just so happens the people that sit on this board are not, they're not citizens of Rutherford County. I think most of them are from the Metro Nashville area. The whole premise behind it is it's non-for-profit. They are held accountable. They're held accountable just like any other public school district, and I say accountable, they're held accountable for achievement for any type of public school in the state of Tennessee. Generally speaking, when we have a charter school application, anyone has a charter school application, it's going to be directed to a school district which has failing schools. Okay, we do not have a failing school. One of the things that the charter school works, it works independently. Really, it doesn't answer to anyone other than this board. And I'll let Doug get into all that finances in a minute. And it receives funding from both the state and our local government. Now, there's some, as we get deeper into this information here, Doug will go over the impact that it potentially could have for our school district and some of the inability to have oversight in terms of financial situation. So Doug, you want to take over from here?
Mr. Spurlock, before you
Yes.
go, will you explain what is the actual process and protocol that from beginning to implementation that a charter school has to go through?
Well, first of all, they have to fill out a very tedious application. It's very thick. I will tell you, the first time they submitted it, it was, first of all, it wasn't filled, the application was not filled out correctly. Okay, there was a lot of things missing, so we turned it down, but the state, and who governs that is the State Board of Education, but we got a message from the Commissioner of Education, and quite frankly, the Commissioner of Education has no authority to make us look at the application again. Under statute, it did say if the application is incomplete, we had the ability to turn it down. However, being good stewards of our money and looking at things, we gave them another chance. They filled it out, and they went through a process of judging everything. There were some things within the application were concerning. There was things like not addressing how are you going to handle the students with disabilities. That wasn't spelled out very clearly, and there was a lot of things missing there. So we sent it back. It's now sent back to them. They have 30 days to respond to what we brought forward. If it's turned down at that time, if we still say we're turning it down, then they take it back to a charter school commission. And that charter school commission is filled with a multitude of different people, including someone representing the State Board of Education and also someone's representing the state board. So that's where we are right now. We'll wait for their findings to come back to us. The school board will take it up and determine whether or not they will go forward in declining it.
And just to be clear, you're sharing this information with us tonight for information only because it's a very lengthy process, and you just want to make sure that we're up to date on where things are at.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it, like I said, we expect to get something back here in the near future, and we'll go forward that. Right now, they are wanting to open up with approximately 470 kids at K-5. Over 5 years, they project that their enrollment will be 770 kids.
Very good. Thank you.
Anything you want to add, Commissioner?
Well, I think you'll point out some of the deficiencies, but that special ed opportunity is very concerning to me. And also, if you look into the figures that you're presenting tonight, you'll see a cherry picking of students, which I find a little strange if you're supposed to be helping a broad base of your student population. Also, you'll notice that their prediction for their free and reduced percentage is 2%. did they change that?
I wish, no, they didn't change it. I wish we had schools at 2%.
Yeah, and I was going to say, so many of our schools in the northern end of the county where they're supposed to be drawing from, are varies anywhere from 50 to almost 90%.
It's kind of vague as far as the transportation is concerned. I think they mentioned having 2 buses. And they also mentioned within the application that they may not just keep it to the northern end of the county, they may spread it out throughout the county. Now, thankfully, we do not accept out-of-county students, therefore they can't expand outside. A lot of charter schools can, like if they're on the border of Rutherford County and Metro, they can get Metro kids and bring them in. But we do not have anything where we accept that.
And my personal opinion for charter schools is that even when I was on the board, I did not oppose charter schools as long as they could do something for our students that we could not do. And I think if you look at what Mr. Spurlock and Mr. Brodery will present to us tonight, that is certainly not the case. And that's why I'm personally opposed to, and I know a little bit about the track record, and I hope you'll explain that as well.
We know that their name is going to be Rutherford County Collegiate Prep. We have K-5. We have programs like that for our district. So we are offering those things that they're offering. Obviously, we got McFadden, we've got the Central Magnet, we've got the Collegiate Academy, we've got the Cambridge program, we've got the IB program, we have dual enrollment, dual credit, all those things. So we offer all those things. There was one other thing I had on my mind, and I forgot it, but I'm going to turn it over to Doug, and Doug's going to go through some of this financial information.
Back to what you had pointed out, Mr. Blair, as far as, it would appear some cherry picking would be proposed. One thing I noted in their application was they would not only be looking at students coming into our county, plus students that are currently in our county school system, but they also actually put in their application that they would look at private schools within Rutherford County. So you could see a financial impact on Middle Tennessee Christian, Providence, and other private academies within our school system, within our county.
And even Murfreesboro City. That
is correct, sir. Yes. Being that grade level, yes, they would go after. They could easily impact Murfreesboro City. I had emailed what you have in front of you is the actual financials from the application that this charter school presented to us, to our school board. You have it in its entirety that was emailed to you, but just for discussion, I was wanting to hit some high notes here to see the potential financial impact on Rutherford County taxpayers, plus funds that would have gone to Rutherford County school system. And like I said, I'll just hit some high notes on this. If you have questions, I'll try my best to answer them. As you can see, and I'm reading off this handout that I prepared for you tonight, straight from, and like I said, this is straight from their application. As you can see on the first page, it is the Rutherford County Charter School that's being proposed. It is a non-for-profit, which is the lead sponsor name, that Rethink Forward Incorporated. That would be the non-for-profit, because by state law, you have to have a non-for-profit charter school. You can't have a for-profit charter school in Tennessee. But if you note right down below, it says CMO, EMO affiliation. It's a Noble Education Initiative. That is a for-profit management company that's out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, I believe, is where they're coming from. The initial, like Mr. Spurlock said, they're going to start with K through 5, and as you can see on that anticipated enrollment line at the bottom, the first year is 470 students, and then you see the second year going to 565, and then just continue to grow through year 5 that they're anticipating.
Let me jump in there while he's doing on the enrollment and give you something to think about. When he's calling out these numbers here, it's not to say that they're going to go over to Laverne Lake and take 400 out here. So what I'm saying is they could potentially take 10 here, 10 here, 20 here. It's still not going to reduce our teaching staff. You see, because 1 to 20, all right, if you got 15 in there, you're definitely not going to put 15 together and make 30 and have one teacher. You can't do that. So my point being, as he's calling out these numbers, keep in mind, it's not like a rezoning, where we can extract kids out of one school to alleviate overcrowdedness. It could be all throughout our county and could have an impact on us on that part.
And Mr. Squirrel, are they held to the same student-teacher ratios?
They are.
Okay.
And based on their projected, in year 5, the second page, if you turn, you'll actually see the breakdown in their student assumption for each of the next 5 years, and they're anticipating starting this next August. They would start with their students in August of 2022 for the 22-23 school year. You can see the breakout, that 470 students that they're anticipating for the first year by grade level. And then dropping down, you can see the mix of what they would be seeing as ELL and SPED, as well as Mr. Blair noted, the free and reduced, which is quite low. Now we get into the actual financials on page 3. What they're proposing, and one of the main concerns that I had, and once again, I'm just looking at the financial side. I'm not like Mr. Spurlock. I'm not an educator. I'm a CPA, and I look at the numbers. So I can't speak to the instruction side. That's why the educators are there to look at that. Looking on the financials, though, and that's what I know that you're very interested in as the funding body for the county as the county commission. This is straight from their application. They're proposing opening this school, pre-opening this school, January 1st of 2022. They would, just like we did with Plainview, they would hire a principal, an assistant principal, and some front office staff to begin the enrollment of the students that were going to be coming in the next August. As you see, they have to put down what funding they have for that first year. So looking on that page, it says pre-opening budget. As you can see, they're coming into this school with not $1 of contributed funds except this $300,000 line of credit. And as you can see on their notes, and this is straight from this application, they're going to have a secured line of credit at an 8% interest rate for a term of 3 years in order to finance 6 months of operating expenses, mainly salaries and benefits for the school. So that is a 3-year loan to finance basically 6 months of mainly salaries and other operating expenses for the school. And I've made a note to our school board, if this was a county government, after working with a lot of county governments over the years, especially some of our rural counties that have cash flow liquidity issues, they'll issue something similar to this that's called a TRAN, a tax anticipation note. Rutherford County, I can't, Mayor Ketron, did we ever have to do those things here in Rutherford County that you can remember where we would have to, it's basically a payday loan. You're loaning your own money to yourself or going out to a bank and financing your payroll until your property taxes come in. If this was a county, the state comptroller would only allow you to do a TRAN, a tax anticipation note, to have a payoff at the end of the fiscal year that you're using the money in. So if this was a county, if this county commission sent this loan up saying this is what we want to do for one of our county departments, the state comptroller would reject that, say that is a multi-year tax anticipation note to make payroll. You need to pay that off, by June 30th. And by the way, and once again, I'm saying this from seeing how they've dealt with some of the rural counties with liquidity problems. They said you really need to address this at budget time. Your fund balance, your available cash is so low, you need to address that as you're working next year's budget. I still have not had a straight answer if this is a legal loan for a charter school. because once, like Mr. Sparks said, this is a public school in Tennessee law. Asked the comptroller for feedback on this, and they sent me an email back and said that they don't have oversight of the charter school debt. So like I told our school board, that's one thing that the comptroller, they can only do what they're authorized to do, so that might be something on the state level they might want to rethink as far as, or think about for future changes, is to authorize the comptroller to have more oversight of debt issuances of charter schools in Tennessee. I bring that to your attention because what we're about to see, with them having only $300,000, they utilize, as you can see on the second page, well, on the second page you see where they're utilizing most of this in salaries and benefits. And we see on the third page, on the very bottom, what they've expended out of that $300,000 for the first year. Plus, I assume some accrued payroll at the end of the year. This is where it gets very interesting on the financial side, especially, I'm sure, for county commissioners when you look at budgets. If you turn the next page, you see the first year of operations. This is when the children are actually coming in this next August. On that next page, it shows year one cash flow. If you note on that second column, it says year one, 22, 23, and then it gives the month of July. Look down to that very first number, $5,865. That says beginning cash. They are coming into this fiscal year with $5,865 cash on hand of loan money to open this 470 student school. If you drop down on that page halfway and go to that first column, it shows the total expenses of $5,026,058. So this public charter school is opening up at the beginning of the year with $5,865 cash on hand, spendable, and they're estimating an annual budget of $5,026,058. That's less than 1 day of cash burn for that annual expenditure. That's what they're starting with, per their numbers. They had notified me the day, just a few hours before we presented this to the school board, that they had received a grant, a couple $100,000 grant from the State Department. However, I was not going to include that for cash burn for operations, because the only state grants I'm aware of is for capital improvements, not for operating for salaries. So I was not going to add that without something in writing from them showing me this is exactly what this grant's for. And once again, that's, as you see, they are estimating $9,822 per student in BEP funding. And when they say BEP funding, that is the state and the local, which is Rutherford County tax money. Same page on that year one cash flow, if you look, it says state revenues, $4,804,340. That is actually BEP funds. That is the state and local match. And as we know, that BEP funding, that number is 48% local funds. That's Rutherford County tax money that we're looking at right here. Half of that, almost half. You can see the very first year, if their head count materializes, that would be the financial impact on Rutherford County school system, and half of that, the 48%, is Rutherford County taxes going to the school. That's managed by a for-profit and is with a non-for-profit that's from out of county.
Commissioner, use your microphone, please.
It's currently going to Rutherford County Schools.
But if they approve the charter within Rutherford County, yes, they will get whatever our portion of it and the state portion of it.
Depending on the numbers
Right.
in our county.
Yeah, now, the average that they're quoting there, 9,800 and something, that's not our average EEP. We're closer to
Okay.
They're shooting high. This is very interesting. If you look at the cash flow, because keep in mind, they're starting with that 5,865 on a 5.1, I'm sorry, just over $5 million proposed annual budget. Notice on that July column, they start with the $5,865 in cash, and they're anticipating bringing in the month of July, $29,746. Look at their expenditures for that just one month, $124,106. That shows that they're utilizing all of their cash. So where's the funds coming from? If you go right below that anticipated loss for the month of July of $94,361, you see what they've done. They're proposing to increase their accounts payable for that month by $142,765, which means they're holding their bills in order to have cash. And if you see right next to that accounts payable, for the next 4 months, they're slowly paying out those bills so they can conserve cash as they go into August, the very next month, which is their first month they'll have public students in their school system. And when I say school system, it's a charter school, but for financial.
It's independent.
So basically what we're talking about here is creating a third public school entity within Rutherford County. So we've got Rutherford County Schools, we have Murfreesboro, we're going to have another, for financial purposes, a third school system in Rutherford County that the taxpayers will be paying for.
That is governed by an out-of-county board.
And managed by a for-profit.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner?
I have a question. Education is very important, but I'm concerned with the safety of the children. You know, we have our resource officers, and I like the way we keep our certain doors locked and how people can get in and out. Can you give us any insight on how that's handled?
We would have no control over that part. Only thing we would be able to work with them with is the accountability piece, because that would come back to us. Not only would it be them by themselves, but the accountability would come back to us also. Now, we could work with them if they agreed for us to work with them.
The other part of that too, though, just make sure that I understand correctly, is we don't know where they're going to be. There's no physical location that's been identified where the school's going to be housed.
I don't think they've identified any location. Now, a lot of you are familiar with the one that's close to Rutherford County line, the KIPP Academy down there. And KIPP, I think Metro takes them from everywhere. You know, they do have that policy in place.
The state probably has some input on the safety anyway, don't they? The state education.
As far as but keep in mind, the only thing that it states in the Tennessee Code Annotated is they are going to be responsible for accountability. They will use our state standards, but it doesn't mention anything about anything else about safety or any of that.
Commissioner? Yeah.
Thank you. I'm not 100% sure I know how to ask this question. I understood the statement beginning that charter schools were for systems that were failing.
Correct.
Since ours is not failing, how can this even be?
I think there was a big push with this administration. In fact, I know, we all received as directors of schools sometime around in late fall, the information from the Commissioner of Education saying that charter schools will, and I'm trying to quote this, make sure I don't miss it. Charter schools should seek those school districts that do not currently have charter schools. That's the way it was stated.
And on note from Commissioner Gannon was with this, the SRO question, that brought me to remember what they proposed for school nursing. They have in their budget for like $500 a year for medical supplies for the students with 470 children. And so when there was a lack of a nurse salary, school nurse salary, we reached out and said, you know, how would you fund a school nurse? They said we would secure a grant for recurring salary costs for a nurse. So the only thing they have currently in this budget for school health would be the $500 for 407 children.
And then Doug, I know you're not done yet, but the other thing that came to mind for me is, just like for us with Plainview, when we open a new school, we have to carry those operating costs for that first year. We don't have money day one when those kids show up.
Right.
But this public school system is asking to be funded from day one.
And I would assume that they would be requesting for some of our growth money from the previous, because we get a little bit, in July?
Yes, sir.
And then the rest of it either in late January or early February. So I would assume that they would be wanting to extract that money.
But this is not an equitable comparison to how we're expected to operate.
Right.
Okay.
And that's a good point. Touch on that with, we had brought to this committee and the full commission the budget amendment for our operating salaries for Plainview, which came out of the general purpose school fund from annual taxes, because by law, a county could not finance those salaries and benefits for that principal for a multi-year debt. We couldn't put that in a bond proceed. And that's why the question that I came up, it's like they're using a multi-year debt to finance salaries. That would not be allowed for Rutherford County government. So once again, I've yet to get an answer from the state. Do they allow that for charter schools, or is that just went under the radar? We don't know.
Well, they would have to have some kind of specific language to allow that in statute, wouldn't they, Mayor?
I would think so. Yes, sir.
My other concern has been in the past watching charter schools, and some have been successful, but by and large, I think not. And my concern is that if this particular facility or entity doesn't do a very good job for our children, they come back into our total system and they're behind, and then we're punished for what we didn't get to do as far as educating and nourishing those students while they were under the care of this other entity. And to my knowledge, there is no hold harmless in place to protect our system from an entity that does not do their due diligence. Am I correct with that?
You would be correct. And getting back to, if you look at the research on charters, they've been around for a while. Some states do have for profit. We don't, thank goodness. It's a mixed bag. Most of it has slight improvement, but majority negligible.
And just to follow up on that, Commissioner Miller, I think the bigger point for me is not only is there no protection for the system, there's no protection for those students. They have lost an academic year, and we've gambled with their education. And so that's part of the reason when you say we need to examine this for opportunities for improvement, what can be offered above and beyond what we are currently providing for these students? Is there a way to do any of this better? That's what the scrutiny is about. That's what we're looking for, so that because we are gambling with these children's education if we allow this. So for me, that's the biggest thing, the biggest reason why you look at this as closely as you do and you scrutinize it as closely as you do, because, at the end of the day, a loss of a year for a child can be impactful indefinitely. So, I'm sorry, go ahead, Doug.
Still on that same page on the year one cash flow, and once again, because this is the cash, as it's the receipts and disbursements as it's coming into this charter school and coming out for this next fiscal year, which they propose as their first operating. Notice right there where it says state revenue, which, like I said, 48% of that line is Rutherford County tax money. notice as you go through each month, starting in August, for the revenue, the $477,301, and if you notice, it's just neatly dropped out each month, basically the same number during the school year. What that is by state law, that BEP funding, state funding and local match, would be provided to this charter school from Rutherford County. We would be sending them that money based on this head count that they're projecting of 470 in each month that we receive BEP. Now, this is where it gets very interesting, how that funding works different than Rutherford County school system or Murfreesboro City school system. As we always talk to you about when we come to, for the county school budget, the BEP funding is always basically a year behind. You know, when we have growth, let's say that was 470 new children in our county school system, we would be waiting for the first part of that new BEP money till January, beginning of February. Under the current law for the charter schools, they would invoice us based on that head count for each month to Rutherford County and say, send us the money up front. So even though the county does not get the money up front from the state, we would have to be fronting that entire amount based on 470 from day one for that charter school. So the thought would be, some people would say, well, that 470 is coming from your county school system. Well, according to their application, no, it's not. It could be coming from private, it could be coming from out of county, but the Rutherford County taxpayers will then take care of that cash flow for them.
And Doug, we keep using that number on the 470, but would that money be paid on actual ADM?
That's the good question right there, is we would have it where we would have to be able to verify their ADM each month, their enrollment and their attendance. If they fall short of this enrollment number, if you notice in August, they're banking that totally, that cash flow balance, they end August, per their number, with cash in bank of $61,952 with about $9,800 per student. So if they fall about 7 students short of their enrollment number, at that point they are having to dramatically start adjusting their expenditure side. And as we all know, you just can't, you know, with students, you have to have staff, adequate staff there. And if they fall under the same guidelines as we do, which they do for the instruction, you can't just adjust and say, hey, I'm just going to lay off, furlough this many teachers to go home. You know, there's some things that are variable costs, there's many things that are fixed in a school that you just can't turn off. So my grave concern here is just a lot of lack of liquidity as they begin. And if you notice, at the end of this fiscal year of year one, notice under June 22-23, that very bottom for ending cash in the middle of the page, they're proposing that they're going to end the fiscal year of next fiscal year with only $20,243 cash in the bank to start, where they're going to then have more students the next year. Significant. It appears to be very significant liquidity issues. Turning the page, unless you have a question on that page.
Doug, I have a question. Following that line on the ending cash balance, that number fluctuates greatly throughout the year. So is this where you're saying that number's going up, but then as they start to pay their bills because they were holding bills, that's where the numbers are going to start coming back down?
Yes, ma'am. As they're adding expenses and they're also paying off, you know, accounts payable, you can see, yes, that they spend 4 months paying off the accounts payable that they incurred at the end of July 31st, per their number. They're paying those bills out through the end of November.
Thank you.
Does cause a fluctuation in cash.
May I ask another question?
Yes, Commissioner.
You know, this is supposed to be a transparent process. Excuse me. So, you know, they're just not going to open their doors and say, well, who wants to come? They're going to have to do marketing, advertising. Has there been a presentation on who's going to pick up that dime for them, or where it fits within their budget?
Have to come out of their budget.
It's going to be the 300,000.
That they borrow.
But I mean, have they made a presentation to the school board saying, this is what we're going to spend in order to recruit and cherry pick these students from your student body?
I could see this if we decline the application and it's approved, I can see them coming back before the board and presenting something. Tell us anything on the front end. Do know that they will be recruiting. They have identified in the northern end of the county. At the same time, they said they could go in various parts.
We've also used the term cherry picking a couple of times. Do we know what the screening and selection process is going to be for students?
We do not.
Thank you.
But we do know that they're not taking very many of our students that have free and reduced classification or at-risk kids, because they say 2%.
In Laverne area, we do have a lot of title schools down there. However, it doesn't equate to what they're showing as the cumulative.
Would Title I funds follow those students, or would it?
It could, yes.
They budgeted, we're about to go through that
Okay.
right there. That's a good question. It's, yes, because just as a public school, you're going to see the same revenue line items that we bring you, you're going to see right here, this next page.
And I'll go back to that particular issue. If you extract some of your title kids out of the school, now they still qualify for title, but the amount of funding decreases.
Thanks.
And you see, gather collectively, that makes a big pool of money to provide extra assist to those at-risk kids.
You turn the page to the next page, it shows the new charter school application budget template, year 2 through 5. You know, we touched on what they're going to do on the first year operation. I want to show you the long term over the next 5 years, the impact, financial impact on Rutherford County. As you can see, it shows for year 22-23 through year 26-27. It's got the anticipated enrollment of the 470, and then it begins to climb. Look at the basic education program line for the revenue. Once again, 48% of that is local Rutherford County tax money. You see a diversion from Rutherford County schools of $4,616,340 for year 1. It then climbs to $5,549,430. Continues to go up above $6 million the next year, climbs to $7.1 million in year 4 and year 5. There's $7,317,390. That's diverted from the current Rutherford County public school system, with 48% of that local funds. One of the arguments for this would be, well, you would have had to hire new teachers anyway and support staff anyway for those 470 growth, where we would have to hire a certain amount of those, of teachers and support staff. If you notice below in their budget, they have principals, assistant principals, and of course they have the cost of the contract management firm. So this is basically creating a whole new central office per se. So once again, this is not adding a new school like Plainview. This is for financial purposes. This is the third public school system in Rutherford County, if this is approved.
And Doug, we've not seen yet, or maybe you haven't gotten to it, we haven't seen yet the capital impact and how they're going to pay for capital improvements and capital maintenance, which we know is, one of our big struggles. Right. We have no idea how they're going to address that.
That's that gets interesting. Yeah. What we've seen, we reviewed with the school board. This is not this non-for-profit group. This was one in Davidson County that we spoke to our board about. In one of the charter schools in Davidson County, they funded a capital project with a $26.8 million bond to purchase a building. It might have,
Purchased the old Hickory Hollow Mall.
yes. And they utilized a government entity over there that similar like an IDB or basically conduit debt. So it was government debt, but it was passed through, so it did not fall on the Metro Nashville taxpayers should they default. But as you can see, guess who pays the debt payments up until a default? That would be the taxpayers. They approved this in 2018. But when you looked at that specific charter school's finances, audited numbers in 2018, their auditors had put a note in there having, well, imagine this, they had liquidity issues. They utilized lines of credit, when the cash funds were low. The auditors had noticed there was a liquidity problem. They actually put in a going concern note in their audit. That charter school, per their just recently issued June 30th, 2020 audited financial statements, the auditors, their auditors noted that charter school had failed to make a single debt payment on that $26.8 million bond payment. So they had defaulted on well over $1 million each year of those payments. The audit noted that they had renegotiated the terms with the lender of that bond, so they would not accelerate the payments and demand everything up front, which means basically delaying those payments. So I'd say within the next year or two, time will tell if we got some property up for sale in Nashville. We don't know, but my point with that is there is some quite interesting, financing that you can see in charter schools in Tennessee.
Well, what made me think of this is in terms of watching the cash flow. I've been part of nonprofit organizations before and watching, they play it close to zero. That's how they're designed. But I'm not seeing anywhere that's allowing for the space of where they're physically going to be,
And that's
connecting.
one of the things that we have not been privy to. And like I said, once again, depending on what goes on with the application process, they would have to bring that stuff back to us.
And that's a good point too, is, as a member of a non-for-profit that you'd be on, you're there because, non-for-profits obviously are for a community. They're your community. And typically when you see a non-for-profit in a community, it has a board of directors made up of
Local
people from that community.
Use your microphone, please, Commissioner. Thank you.
Taking their budget and putting it against our budget for the same number of students, how does it equal out?
Well, according to their numbers, it's a lot higher than ours. Our average is like close to 8,900 and theirs is over 9,800. So it's a little higher than ours. And it would stand to reason because you got to look at the size, it's
Right.
per pupil expenditure. It's an average.
I'm sitting here thinking about the 1,500 houses is going in Smyrna, Laverne, maybe more than that. Where are we going to put a school? And would this help us?
See, that's a good question there, and that's what I meant in the very beginning. See, it doesn't mean they're going to take kids out of one particular school. So what you can do is you can extract some kids out of a school. Like, for example, Rockville Middle's got 1,222 kids. I can take 100 out of there, but guess what? It's still overcrowded. It still needs all those teachers that are in there. That 100 didn't do anything but put a little dent on it. You may have some classrooms that have 1 to 19. You may have one classroom that the rest of them have. You see what I'm saying? It's not going to reduce. In fact, it's not, if you got to look at it like us building a school. This is not building a school. Even though they're going to be our kids, they're going to take them from all over the county or from several different schools.
That brings on another question. Are they going to have buses that goes all over the county?
That's a good question. In their original application, and they can always amend that, I think they budgeted in like 2 buses.
me, if it's going to be a chartered school, parents can take them.
Well, you know what? A lot of them do. I mean, case in point, at the kids' school that I was referencing, they walk to school. It's right around close by. They do.
Commissioner Key?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Who determines the curriculum for charter schools?
They have to, the State Department of Ed, they have to use the same curriculum that we do.
So we can do a specialized curriculum. I mean, if we could use it to our advantage, maybe a vocational charter school where it's a non-college pathway. Make a deal with the state. Here's a good school, but everything is a pathway that's non-college. It's all vocational.
Well, you know, we kind of do that in our schools,
Right.
you know, in terms of looking at our careers. You know, that's one of the things our big focus is on this year. You know, we always hear college and career, but we want to do career. Career lasts for a lifetime. College, thank goodness, only lasts for 4, 5, 6 years, unless you're a professional student.
Right.
You know,
But we wouldn't have enough control over that curriculum to determine it
they
exclusively.
would have to use the same curriculum that the state State Department of Ed has in career and technical education. And quite frankly, they would not, I mean, keep in mind this is a K-5, but let's say they want to venture into the high school, they would not have the capacity to purchase some of the stuff that we get, you know, through grant money and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was just thinking ahead on that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And Mr. Spurlock, to that point, the career and technical education program is expensive.
It is expensive. You know, we get Carl Perkins money, you know, federal money that we use to support our programs, grant money. We just recently received a $1 million grant for Innovation High School where we're actually using it not only to put some, we've already got some career and technical education courses in one of our middle schools, but other middle schools. It also pays for these kids to take, you know, these industry certifications that they take, you know. We will pay for them. Those that are in need, we'll pay for them. So those are the kind of things. We feel like a charter school should be offer something that we don't offer. And I'll be honest with you, I've looked over it. I can't see anything that they're willing to offer that we don't already offer.
And Commissioner Key, to that point, Mr. Spurlock and I have talked about this before and even taken a field trip or two, where I would love to see Rutherford County develop a dedicated career and technical high school. There's many advantages that I can think of, just everything from, you know, you could have employers who would help, you know, make donations and donate equipment and things like that. At the same time, you wouldn't need to be having as much land for athletic facilities and whatnot. So anyway, there's a lot of advantages to developing that career and technical path, and I think there is some future to that. I think a partnership with a charter school who would offer that, I have a feeling their application would look vastly different than the one that we're looking at right now.
I would follow up on golly, I'm running Commissioner Allen, is that yes, we do. You're absolutely right. That would be a perfect thing to have that. And a lot of it, and not only we would have it, if we could develop a MOU with the tech school here, you know. And that's some of the things we're still working on. I think we're making progress there.
Good.
You know? So that's a good point. I think it would be perfect.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner.
you say 48% of the taxpayer, what was the percentage?
48% of the ADM for each child comes from the local.
Okay. And we wouldn't have, well, bottom line, not to sound mean, but would we have 48% of say of anything?
That's a great question, because if you notice, these are their budgets, their proposed budgets. The non-for-profit board would approve this school's budget, and at that point, this funding body has no say on send the money. Based on enrollment, send the money. So whereas if they needed to change this budget, since they wouldn't be coming here, the county commission would not be approving this budget.
So even though this is a public education system, they would not go through the public channels of authorization.
Correct. Their board would be over that.
The next thing too is by law, they would have an audit by either, as the state statute would say, by the state comptroller, which we are audited by the state comptroller staff auditors. They would, if they followed suit with the other charter schools we've seen, they would get a contract CPA firm, which their board, charter school board, would select the auditor. Once that was completed, that audit would go to that non-for-profit board. That would not go to the county audit committee. Also, as any non-for-profit that requests Rutherford County tax funds, they of course have a process that they come before the county commission as the funding body saying, we request this, and you as the commission have certain guidelines for that funding, that they would not be included in that. Once again, it's their board approves a budget, we have the ADM, send the money.
Madam Chairman.
Use your microphone, please, Commissioner.
Really loud. Where is the money coming from if we don't approve it?
It would then just go, it's coming from the Rutherford County taxpayers and state BP funding that otherwise would go to Rutherford County schools. Mm-hmm. But once again, by the law, the way it's written, they would not be a county department. They would just receive funding based on the ADM that they have enrolled.
So,
everything that the county spend has to come through me.
I would agree.
I don't understand what you're saying. How can it be approved if it doesn't come through me?
I think he's asking the logistics of who cuts the check. Where does the money, what bank account does the money sit in, and who cuts the check?
It would be something that we would have to present. We would probably have to present how many ADM that they have.
Yes.
But we wouldn't have the authority to say no.
Right.
That's my point, yes.
That's correct.
That's my point. It would come through our funds that would be budgeted, but we would have zero say in, if they say we have this enrollment, we would just have to fund it.
All of what we're talking about makes a lot of sense if there are school systems that are failing. And I'm not going to mention the school system specifically in West Tennessee, okay? But something probably like a charter school system has merit in certain places. Why? Why would not an application process state some kind of a goal that they're going to accomplish in Rutherford County and how they're going to go about accomplishing that goal? The goal would have to be improve the educational system. So I don't even see that as being part of the process. That bothers me probably more than anything else that we're talking about.
And I will agree with you. And I will just say this: if you look at Knox County, if you look at Hamilton County, you look at Metro Davidson County, you look at Shelby County, you're going to see a lot of charters. And you can deduce what that means however you want to.
I guess that's my point as well, that part of the application process should be some stated goal. We're going to do this.
Fulfill some community need. Identify what that need is.
And how could any goal or any charter school improve the process in Tennessee unless it's some specific school system that would be a vocational type of school? And I could see something like that working possibly, but just to say we're going to teach students, and I'll shut up.
And I think you bring up a good point. I think in Williamson County, they're in the process of doing a charter for autism, which, by the way, I think is a good idea, a great idea. But I don't know where that is as far as the process, but that's what you're talking about, something that specifically adds to the options of students.
Hold on, Commissioner. Mayor, you had something to add?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. About 16, 17 years ago, when I first got elected to the Senate, Thelma Harper I was on Senate Education, took a group of the Senate Education Committee to the KIPP school in Nashville. Met with the principal. He went door to door in that neighborhood, because that neighborhood, not the school system in Metro was failing, but that neighborhood was. And he went door to door, talked to parents, recruited the kids. I saw some benefits from that. And then Senator Reggie Tate invited me to come down to Memphis. And that was we toured the Barrett Academy in inner city Memphis. They had an old school building, boarded up. The school system gave it to this guy who had come back from graduating at Harvard, but he wanted to come back to where he grew up. I visited one outside of Indianapolis, same thing. It was a Catholic school, not-for-profit, but all around the neighborhood was crack houses, gangbangers, etc., and those systems were failing. I see the need in those areas. Every year, our delegation would get together. TEA, had a member from TEA, the MEA and REA would get together and ask our legislative delegation, do you support charter schools? Because they feared what could happen. And I told them that would never happen here because we have two of the best school systems in the state of Tennessee, and now it's encroaching, it's coming, never thinking that it would come here because our school systems are not failing. Just briefly looking at this, these numbers, you know, they've showed, starting out with the line of credit of $300,000, they're showing year one, all they're going to expend for lunch only, not free and reduced breakfast, $1.45 a day. That's what that got allocated. Year two, it jumps up a little bit, year one, it was less than that. Just based on my preliminary figures, $1.45, and then it goes to the second year, it goes to $1.85 a day. You can't feed kids for $1.85 or even $1.45 the first year. You know, what I see about this group, and I implore your board to look deeper and do a deep dive, because what I see reminds me of some of the RFPs that we have received on our landfill, of what to do with our waste stream. You have some companies that have a good idea. They get a lot of data together. They see a pot of money over here that is government money, and they start backing into a presentation. They think that they might be able to grab some of that money. They're not really interested in the kids. They're interested in grabbing a chunk of money, our BEP money, that's going to be taken away from you, and we have no control. This is a disaster with this company. Now, there may be some other charter schools I've seen that have been successful, but this one, I'm sorry, I don't think that these numbers don't equate to me, and I think it's embarrassment that they would even submit. They don't have numbers in here for anything to run this system.
Commissioner Key?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. So I think your point says it well, Commissioner Spurlock. It sounds like the administration says go find a hole, and in the past maybe the administration or the government has said you don't know how to run a school system, so we're going to help you. Okay, we don't have that problem.
Right.
To bring in something such as this sounds like it would create such a diversion. I mean, we've got a cohesive, collective school system. And there's a good rhythm going in sports, in academics, good little competitions, and very, very fluid. To disrupt that, it starts small, but it would certainly grow. So I do see this as perhaps a dangerous thing as well. Yeah.
And I think that Rutherford County is targeted for a good reason, because we're growing. I mean, we're growing. We're adding, 23 people a day, and we know the growth is tremendous. So I think that's fertile ground. You won't see them going into rural areas and open up charter.
And to Commissioner Phillips' point, they probably can't say on an application what the improvement will be, because there is no improvement, and that wasn't their goal to find an improvement. It was to find a void where there is no charter school, and that's what they found. Perhaps it's a tough fight, maybe.
Doug, will you talk a little bit about, I know you all have been in conversation, I've been in conversation with our state delegation and identified some of the holes here that we've seen. We just speak to that a little bit about, just so that folks know that we do have people at the state level who are going to be scrutinizing this, and maybe some of the places where we need to fill in some gaps.
And Did you have something you wanted to ask me, ma'am? You probably didn't see.
I did not see Ms. Cook.
Our school system, we have a good school system. We have a good school board. And I'm very proud of Rutherford County. I'm proud of the school system. And you hear other counties talking about what a good school system we have. And we have, now I'm just going to name one school, Stewart's Creek. Look at the opportunities when you graduate from Stewart's Creek, how many different subjects that you got nursing, you got auto painting, you got, I can't even name them.
Got a little bit of everything.
Everything. Mm-hmm. You go to that school, you graduate, then you can pretty well get a good job. I can't see where this is going to do that.
Well, and I agree with you. It's one of the things we're continuously looking at how we can improve outcomes for our kids throughout the, case in point, when I've talked about this, Laverne High School, we have developed an MOU with Laverne High School and Motlow Community College. There will be about 50 kids that will be going to Motlow in Smyrna this year, actually on campus, being taught on campus, that will be leaving there with a high school diploma and also an associate's degree, and with a path of where they're going next. We're always looking at, whether it be in career and technical education, and quite frankly, that is one of the biggest things we want our kids to do, leave us not only with a high school diploma, and maybe you want to go to college, but have a skill set that is marketable in a global economy. Those are the kind of things that we want to do, and quite frankly, you have to do. One of the things that Doug is good at doing is the finance stuff. He can look at ways in which working in his job where we can save money and use that money in a way that's more impactful on our kids.
Over the past 30 years, our school system has really grown better. Like I say, I'm very proud of it.
Well, thank you.
And when Roy Waldron School, which is elementary now, used to have a workshop in it.
Mm-hmm. It did.
And now it's classrooms. And we didn't have many of those schools with workshops, and we thought we was doing something great.
Doug, I know this bunch pretty well, and I know when they have their bellies full, and I think they got their bellies full. Is there anything?
Yes, ma'am.
Last things you want to add?
I'll close this up. And we thank you for the opportunity to speak about this and to touch on what you had said. I've been in contact. We've been in contact with several of our state delegations, so they're aware of what's going on here. We wanted to spend this time just to make you, as the board, aware what's going on. I believe right now this is one charter school application. I think currently Davidson County Metro has 26. I believe it is in the works right now. So this is for information only this time, but that way we wanted to let you know what was going on in the financial impact, because we might come back later with something that we could ask this county commission to do with us on the school board to have better oversight of this at the county level. Thus, we needed to make sure you were aware of all this first, so it wasn't just all at you at once.
Hold up before you go. There are other questions?
Just a couple of quick follow-up questions. I think Commissioner Gammon mentioned security, and we don't have a lot of control over that. Teacher qualifications, background checks, any
Teacher qualifications fits the same criteria that we do. The background checks, which means that they would have to do all that stuff.
Same?
Yes, sir.
And the student selection, could you briefly go over that again? You mentioned cherry picking.
Well, I think what he was trying to say is it's not going to be any particular, even though they stated in one part of their application that they would specifically look to the northern end of the county, then they come back later on and talk about maybe branching out and including private schools, and things of that nature. I think that's what he's talking about, cherry picking. If you look at the demographic sheets that he put down, 2%, that's not any, we don't have a school in our system that's low.
And we don't know what their selection process is going to be.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner?
You said that's going to be another Rutherford County school entity, like Murfreesboro City. So, and then there was a comment made also that when I said something about SROs and so forth, we didn't know where the school would be. So it may not even be in Rutherford County. Is that what you're saying?
No, it'll be in Rutherford County. We don't know where in Rutherford County. Even though they said in the northern end of the county, northwest end of the county, we don't know. And probably they don't know right now.
Yeah, they've not identified a specific address of where
But they
they'll be.
will, and they'll let us know, if they're approved.
Doug, next month, come in.
I had something, but, once again, we've seen for a while now, there's always something that
They want to
delays.
drag out the meeting.
There you go. They drag out the meeting.
Well, and again, before you all go, sorry, go ahead, Commissioner. Yeah.
I just had, it's not about this here, it's about something else. I might have been speeding, I'm not going to say I was or not, but I was going down Stones River Road and seen Roy Walden. I thought it said Roy Walden Annex, a new sign. Can you give some insight?
Yeah, a couple years back, we consolidated those two schools because of operational integration, not only to save money, but also since it was a K-2 school, there was no accountability. So those kids, when they left that school, they went over to Roy Walden. So what we did is brought it together. Now, ideally, we've got an experienced principal there. Has got probably about 30 years now. When she decides to retire, we will make that just an assistant principal there. Laverne Primary does not exist. It's Roy Walden Annex.
And again, one more before you go. I said this to Doug privately, and I just want to make sure that I say it publicly as well. The level of skill and knowledge that it took for you to be able to dissect this information and identify this is beyond impressive, and someone of a lesser skill set could not have done it. So just on behalf of Rutherford County citizens, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
He was on it, like a bulldog. Mm-hmm. We know that, don't we?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I went to Laverne Primary as well, so I'll be a little bit sad.
There you go.
Yeah.
Bulldog.
All right, very good.
All right,
thank you all. Does anyone else have anything for this group? If not, we stand adjourned. Thank you.